if you're taking life too seriously, it just becomes so heavy. What we wanted to do was about having freedom and having time with our kids while they're young. But we watched a movie called The Secret, and it's about manifestation, what you believe can actually affect your reality. I think it's really important to really figure out who you are and what it is that you want. If you have got habits that are going to hold you back, or patterns of thought and behavior that are going to hold you back from doing things, work on those first, because if you have all these blocks to making progress, you're going to get in your own way. If you're not healthy, doesn't matter how much money you've got in the bank and doesn't matter what else you've got going on, you're broke.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Ways to Wealth. Today I'm joined by Matt. Matt, why don't you give us the too long didn't read about who you are and how you got to be here?
Kia ora, my name's Matt and I'm from Ngāti Kahu in the far north. I'm a husband and a father to 3. We live off grid here, just a bit out of Kaitaia, and we've been living here for 6 years. And we started off in a caravan and we've slowly built up our home over time as we've been able to afford it. And we've come from Lower Hutt, sold up everything, moved up here and sort of started our lives again.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, so a little bit of context is that I basically started seeing your videos on TikTok and was like, I love what you're doing. I'm intrigued about it myself. And I think the values that you were kind of talking about in your videos on TikTok were really cool about basically living within your means, kind of you're being less encumbered by being indebted, and you're able to create a more holistic life and kind of spend time kind of being present. And that really resonated with me. And I was like, it'd be super cool to have you on here. Cause I think a lot of people are, if not doing it, they're dabbling in watching what's going on in the space of like, basically, I guess, independent living, independent surviving. I don't know what you'd call it, like sustainably and independently living, and existing. So I think that's really cool. I think a lot of people are interested in it. And I thought it'd be awesome to hear your story and how you kind of went step by step and where it all started, and kind of how that ties into wealth.
Yeah, well, there's kind of different levels to what we do. There's people who are hardcore self-sustainable people. They're milling their own wood. They're doing, everything to not have to go to the supermarket and not having to rely on anything outside of themselves and their land. That's not me.
Yeah.
That's way out from where I am. Our sort of kaupapa of what we wanted to do was about having freedom and having time with our kids while they're young.
Yeah.
So instead of having to be at work all the time, having our land freehold so we don't have to pay for the mortgage or rent, having solar power so that it's reducing our weekly cost of living, the decisions that we're making. But we're sort of not against being part of the system. We'd like to work within the system, There's some great things about the system, and a lot of off-grid people sort of are so anti the system that they don't take advantage of what's actually there that can be used to help you through.
Yeah. I mean, because when I think about it almost from a similarity there with how I've been thinking about capital and currencies, and reading some books around kind of empires and kind of like macroeconomics. And you kind of got the Western system, the Eastern system, and now kind of almost this decentralized crypto system that's kind of emerged in the asset system, I guess you could call it. But there are on ramps and off ramps to all of them. They're kind of different ideologies almost, but there are off ramps in between, right? And perhaps that's what you're talking about, where you can take a stance, and some people might not use these on ramps or off ramps because of their beliefs, but others want the best of those kind of the infrastructures that the mainstream kind of, I guess, society provides.
Yeah, well, our thinking, because our home, I don't know if you would add a video just of like our home onto the end of the episode or something.
That'd be cool. Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Yeah, people could get a little context about it. But it's separate buildings.
Yeah.
So instead of having just a traditional house, it's like 5 or 6 separate little buildings. And it's just open space between them. They're not connected. And the thinking behind that was kind of, because I'm Māori, was that old Māori village kind of way that they had little houses, a community of little houses with a main whare nui where people would meet. So they were always going out into the weather and always going out and being connected to nature and working out in nature. And we wanted to be forced to go outside because when you're living in a house, it's so easy to just stay inside when the weather's not good, or even be completely disconnected from the weather and not even know what's going on outside.
Yeah.
And now when we go to somebody's house or stay at my parents' house and we're inside, you kind of get this grey cloud over you and you're like, why do I feel this way? And you realize it's because you haven't actually been outside. It's really strange.
That's really interesting because that reminds me of like when you go camping or you go to a really beautiful place, you feel almost a weight lift off your shoulders.
Yeah.
And being, I was a professional gamer when I was younger. So I spent a lot of time competing in esports, and I spent a lot of time inside practicing. And yeah, I can definitely say that there was an element probably of that kind of, you could go almost days without going outside. And I think we can, right? Or we go from our home to the office to home. And like, if you park in the basement of the building, you're literally just planting yourself in between.
You've got an internal garage. You get into your car, you drive into the garage at work, you get out, you go inside. Like you never,
they're totally, totally interesting. The co-founder of Acuity and Medition is Fijian Indian, and he is a avid gardener, and he spends all weekend in the garden, making his own, growing his own veggies and food fully. They're pretty, like, apart from obviously the meat and stuff, but they're like almost fully in their garden. And man, and I think, and he always talks about it with me about needing to be grounded and be in the connected to the earth. So yeah, highly rate it, but we can easily avoid it sometimes.
Yeah, just get your hands in the soil every now and again. I think it's good for you. We walk barefoot a lot as well, my family.
Yep. Yeah. I love that. I love doing that too.
Yeah, well, we're from the far north, and if you go into Kaitaia town, every second person isn't wearing shoes. Like, it's so normal here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's good. And you talked about how you kind of made this decision. You were kind of what was the kind of process, I guess, behind having this goal? And like, I think achieving the goal is now something different to what it was when you probably first even had the idea of being in a place, right? So do you have any like aha moments or catalysts that actually made you be like, let's look into this, let's start to learn? Yeah,
so, the story actually goes back before we decided to live off grid. So we were like a lot of people in Aotearoa, we were renting, and we were renting a really unhealthy property, and it was expensive, and we had a baby, and my mental health wasn't good. And this is going to sound, I don't like telling people about this part because it sounds nuts, but we watched a movie called The Secret, and it's about manifestation. Have you heard of that movie?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah, my mother-in-law gave it to us, and we had it in the DVD in the house for ages, and I was like, I'm never watching that. Yeah. And then we watched it, and we sort of heard these principles of, see it, believe that you can do it, and it's done, or something like that. I can't remember so much the exacts now, but we started just jokingly practicing it. And then, funnily enough, things started actually building momentum, and things actually started happening for us. And I think what it is as well is it was the first time I'd ever come across anything that told me that what you believe can actually affect your reality.
Yeah.
I had never heard of that concept before, and it makes so much sense once you start doing it. Like, of course, if I think things aren't going to go well, I'm going to isolate myself. I'm not going to go for opportunities. I'm going to like just try and go into protection mode in my little cocoon. And then you're just
protection
cutting
mode
yourself.
Protection mode, right?
Off. Yeah, you're cutting yourself off from anything actually coming to you. So like people think it's a woo-woo thing, but it's actually a pretty common sense thing at the end of the day.
It's practical.
I started opening myself up more to, you know, going, oh, what would I actually want out of life? And then what's an opportunity to do that? And just sort of little steps along the way. And these little steps started building up momentum to within a year of watching that movie, we had bought a house, and I'd never thought we would do that. You know, I didn't even know how you'd go about doing that.
Okay, so that was the first goal. Was that the first goal then that you really set?
The first goal I really set was to call the GPs and make an appointment for myself. I hadn't left the house in nearly a year, and I couldn't talk to people on the phone. I was just that stuck in anxiety that I was just completely cut off. Yeah, so
and that makes this whole thing even more interesting.
Yeah. So the first step was calling the doctor's office. My hand was shaking, and I made an appointment for myself. And then the next day was like taking my daughter for a walk. She was a baby, to the park. And because I couldn't even walk down the footpath with somebody near me, my mind was just going crazy. And then from there, every day I was setting little goals for me to achieve, and I was sharing it all on Snapchat. And within sort of a month, I went from like 30 people following me to like 15,000.
Wow.
And so many people were messaging me saying they were going through the same thing, and it was inspiring them to sort of get out and do more things as well.
That's so cool.
But that ball rolling led to the house. Yeah.
Right. So so first it wasn't, hey, I'm going to I'm going to buy a house. It was first like, hey, I need to get right. I need to get out. I need to do something.
Yeah. Taking my daughter to play groups and stuff like that. And
was it your daughter that was the motivation?
Oh, yeah.
Like kind of becoming was that your first? That was the first one.
She was kind of like, I would take her in her pram, and she was kind of like my
protection,
like protector. Yeah, yeah. Like she was walking and she was in front of me in the pram, and then I felt safe because she was with me. You know.
Wow.
Really,
that's really interesting. Almost like having you're having, you know, there's all sorts of techniques to do that. That's really cool. And I guess that gave you the confidence and the belief to want to be able to get over that.
Yeah. And then sort of when it came to buying the house, you know, we had our KiwiSaver, which we didn't even think about. You know, the money just comes out. You don't even think about where it's going or what it's doing. And then we also borrowed a little bit from my parents, but we went to a real estate agent and they said, you guys don't have enough for a deposit on any house. And we went to an open home. The first one we went to, we put an offer in and we got that house, and it was like this place that was run down. It had been a P lab. Nobody wanted it because of the reputation. It was already like we were living in a low reputation suburb anyway, you know. Yeah. So we got that place, but because the last tenants that had been in there had ruined the house, the whole inside had been redone. So like everything was brand new on the inside.
Oh, okay. So it had actually been renovated.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's even better because you were living in a pretty annoying. Yeah, that's hilarious. Because you were living in a place that you didn't really like and you didn't think was healthy. So that was.
Oh, yeah, that rental, when it would rain, the water would just come through the windows and through the door, you know? Like there was just gaps everywhere.
Yeah, we have that at our front door at the moment, actually, where like if it rains a lot, you have a puddle by the front door.
Yeah.
Lucky it's tiles. That is so, that's cool. And then basically over the space of just a year, you built up some momentum. You obviously had been self-saving through KiwiSaver and that had been building up. And then you were like, okay, we went to the open home. We found on our first open home a potential thing to bid on, and you bid on it and you got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it auction or you just bid on it, like, or was it a private offer?
We just bid on it, and I think the owner was so stoked to get an offer that he just took the first one he got.
That's what I think people need a little bit of confidence in, I think. And it's, and I think it's a strategic thing, but I think it's important, like, as a renter or a first time buyer, to think that if you're going in and you're buying in the market, you are a valid participant. You shouldn't feel any lesser than the real estate agents or the vendors that already own the asset. They need you as much as you need them.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people that are first home buyers as well, especially people who are coming from a background of not having much money and renting with their parents renting all their lives as well, is that they think, I've got a 30-year mortgage. It's 30 years of my life. I've got to pay this thing off. But they don't realize that in that time, your property is absolutely going up in value. So it's actually making you money over time, probably making you more money than you're earning at your job, over time.
Yeah, and like, sometimes timing plays a massive factor, right? You have these periods of time where, you get a great appreciation over a short period of time. Then you have periods of time where it goes flat or whatever. And like you say, it's you're buying into an asset, and you're basically, the mortgage is important from the perspective of how many times do you pay for the asset over the 30 years, and the sooner you can pay it off, the better, because you'll pay less for it. But like you say, it's a leveraged product. There is no other product like a mortgage for everyday people to get what we call in like financial markets leveraged, is through a mortgage. It's the most efficient way that most people have access to obtain leverage in the system right now today. Yeah,
and also people don't realize as well, a lot of people that don't know about money is just pay a little bit more even than your mortgage is set at. Just whatever extra you can pay, just pay it, because it will take off a lot more than you realize over time.
Compounding effects.
Yeah. They want you to pay the minimum. That's what I'll tell you. They want you to pay the minimum.
You're a customer of the bank for as long as you have that mortgage. And the moment you no longer have that mortgage, you're no longer a customer in that part of the business. And, so like you say, if you think of it like a subscription service almost, the longer you pay for Netflix, the longer you pay the monthly subscription, you're renting it. And in a sense, with mortgage, you're paying that principal off. And, like you say, the sooner you get rid of the mortgage, the sooner you're no longer a customer, the sooner you're no longer needing to consume that product.
Yeah. And Netflix, things like that, the subscription services, they always start off really great. And then they're like, okay, I've got them now. Then the service gets worse and worse over time and more expensive, but they've already got you. Yeah.
Or better, but you become more entrenched.
Yeah. Remember when Netflix started, it was the only one, and you're like, wow, I've got everything on here. And now, like, everyone's got like 6 subscriptions now.
And then it's the same as what we used to pay for Sky with the big dishes and all of that stuff, right? It's just accumulated to the same point. Yeah.
And now they've even got blimmin' movie rentals, like a video shop on the streaming app.
Yeah. Yeah. It all adds up. It all adds up. Hey, so with the, you said that you managed to ride this kind of the recent couple of years, and that gave you a real leg up, and you were working. And then when was it from when you bought the house to then you started looking into living off grid? Like, how long did that take?
So we were probably living in our house for a year, and then we got pregnant with our next kid, Wolf. And my wife was working and I was staying at home and looking after the kids. And she was exhausted, and she was realizing, like, man, I'm just getting up, and then I'm driving into Wellington, going to work, coming home, having dinner, barely seeing everybody, and then just, going to bed again, and then seeing everybody on the weekend. And we were talking about it, and she had always wanted to live this way, but she thought we would live this way sort of when we retire.
Right.
And I was like, we watched The Secret, we can just do things now.
Right.
Or
So
like
you'd built up a load
thing.
of confidence. You'd built up a load of confidence you were like, oh, well, we can do that because I've seen us do things before.
We've already done something we never thought we would do. Like, and there was this belief of like, we can pretty much just create whatever we want, really. So why don't we just create what we really want? And then that started discussions about what does that look like? What would that be? And at the same time, we had both sort of got into the idea of growing our own food, and reducing our waste with our rubbish as well was something that we had really gotten into, not buying packaged things and making things from scratch and stuff like that.
Right.
And we were kind of like, our sort of idea of how to live is you become interested in something and then you just learn about it and you expand it till it becomes a big part of your life and even becomes your income.
Right. Yeah, totally. I mean, that's true. That's freedom right there. And curiosity and lifelong learning. I find that if I look at, people I really admire and want to emulate certain parts of them, even though, our heroes are human and all that, like, they are still just the same as us. They're living their own lived experience through their own eyes, and having their own internal qualms. But the ones that stood out to me were always people that wanted to reinvent themselves and were curious enough to look and play. And I think play is the real big thing there.
Definitely. If you're taking life too seriously, it just becomes so heavy, and then it takes away your freedom.
Yeah. So that's so true. So what did some of the steps look like when you were looking at land and you were looking at how you would make it all work?
Yeah, so we started sort of like, we're still sharing on social media.
Yeah.
So we started talking about, well, we're thinking about doing this and wanting to live more on the land, and we don't know how we would go about doing that. And then people would message suggestions, like, bless them. It's a lot of communication from people on social media. Everyone has ideas about what you should be doing.
And was that on TikTok or was that on Snapchat?
No, I only recently joined TikTok in like the last month. It was sort of Instagram. Yeah. Right. There's been people that have been following us since before my daughter was born. So there's like 10 years.
Wow. That's insane.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. All good things take 10 years, by the way, I feel.
But so like I'm adopted. I found my birth family, and one of my new cousins from that family offered us land in the Manawatu. And so we went out and checked that place, and we could have gone there, but I was also like, no, we can create whatever we want, and I don't think this place is right for us.
Yeah.
And we looked around at properties all over the place, and the idea was kind of like, if we want a garden, obviously we don't want to go to the South Island because it's be too cold to live the way that we want to live.
Right.
And everything that we were looking at for what we wanted to do, sort of climate and the cost of land. Off-grid people, generally, you'll find them living in the places that are the more affordable places to buy land.
Yeah.
And it was all pointing to the far north, which just made me cringe so much because I'm from here. And I was like, when I left here, I was like, I'm never going back.
Oh, so there was a move. There was a whole move from basically far north to Wellington or to that area, Lower Hutt.
Yeah, so I moved away from the far north when I was 18 and went to university in Palmerston North.
Right. Yep.
And then that's where I met my wife, and then we moved to Wellington and Lower Hutt, and then we moved back up to the far north and lived with my parents for 6 months, which was a whole nother adventure. Yeah. But it was very confronting and healing for me to come back here. I think there's sort of like the Buddhists talk about, if you think you've found inner peace, or if you think you've found inner peace, try going home and living with your parents and see how you handle that.
Personally, that's really interesting.
Me and my parents now are so much closer than we were before we moved home. I see them all the time. we don't have a washing machine or a wash house here. We haven't got around to building one of those yet. So I do all the washing at their house. So like the grandkids are with them all the time. And it's reinvented our whole relationship to where it's not like son and parents anymore. It's more like we're more equal now.
Is that your birth parents or your adopted parents?
My adoptive parents. So my birth parents are both passed after I found that birth family. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is your adopted parents, and they're they are your parents for all intents and purposes as well.
They've had me since I was 3 days old.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I was born and my birth mother knew them. This was in Invercargill. I know, I get around the country. Yeah. So she was young. She knew them. She called them up and basically said, I don't think I'm ready to have a child. And within 3 days of her calling them, they had a kid, and I'm their only child.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow, amazing. They're amazing.
Yeah. And it's been, I really am blessed that they took me. I didn't realize that so much until as I got older. Then realizing man, I have been gifted the most beautiful family, because I didn't realize that a lot of families don't even get along. And sort of the family I'm raised in, my aunties, uncles, grandparents, cousins, we're all quite tight. And I didn't realize how rare that is.
Yeah. Yeah, that's intense. We just had my in-laws here for 3 weeks. It was good.
Yeah.
But there's a whole thing there. And then it reminds me of going back to England in 2023, because we moved from the UK the day after we got married. And for all intents and purposes, I was escaping, what I viewed as a prison basically, blue collar, working class, kind of not ideal background, and not many aspirations to actually live the way you want to live, or have this kind of freedom, some sort of freedom. I don't know what it was, but and just moving location, like you said, just unlocked for me a lot. And we were back there in 2023, and we were saying it's not home. It's familiar and nostalgic, but not home, because we've obviously built really strong roots here now, and reinvented ourselves and done it on our own to prove that we could, I think. But the idea of going back and being at peace is really interesting to me. When you mentioned that, I just dwelling on that, my own circumstance, thinking, maybe that's when I've kind of got that self-awareness and that peace, is maybe if I can go back there and feel okay about it. I don't know, content, perhaps. I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah,
well, between a child and parents, there's so much context, and it's so much of that context never gets verbalized. There's certain ways you might feel about your parents. There's certain things that they would do, or there's certain things you might do to them, where there's these things that you rub each other the wrong way even, but you never actually bring it up. It's never addressed. So they just get pushed down and linger. And then, you might not see them for a few years, and then you see them, and then straight away your back's up like, oh, that's right, that thing I hate. I haven't felt that in ages, and here it is.
And that natural regression to the period of time that, all of a sudden you feel, you may have traits that kind of weren't there.
And you thought you were outgrowing it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's funny. So you moved up north, you lived for 6 months with your parents, and that was a whole story, and I think that's maybe for another episode. And then you were kind of working it out, the ops, what you're going to buy, searching for land, stuff like that.
Yeah, we were looking around for land and trying to sort of find something that was affordable. So when we had sold our house, we'd lived there for 2 years, and we basically made exactly $200,000 from the sale. And we just had that in the bank. And we had never, we're kind of still, if we have $2,000 in the bank, we're balling, So having that much money in the bank was like a high, I guess. Like I remember I took my parents and my uncle and auntie out to dinner at a restaurant and the bill was $500 and my hand was shaking when I would like put the EFTPOS card on because I had never paid like things like that. Epic. I've been broke my whole life, you know.
So when did you sell your house? What date, roughly?
It was August. I'm trying to remember.
August 2021?
Maybe 2020 or 2021. Yeah.
Probably.
It was before COVID.
Oh, it was before COVID.
Yeah. So we moved up, lived with my parents for 6 months, bought the land, found the right land, and then COVID hit pretty much straight away. We maxed out. We bought as many building materials as we could. We took it all out to the land, and when lockdown happened, we just got to work. And my parents have a motorhome, and we had a caravan, and we all just came out here and lived as a family out here and got to work building everything. And it was the best time.
Yeah. Just your family, or did you have like a bigger group?
No, just me, my wife, kids, and my parents.
And your parents, yeah. So
they're still,
nice.
They're still the closest. Like I'm not a big, even though like, you know, I talked about having anxiety and not going out and seeing people. I'm still not a great social person.
Yeah.
I enjoyed a small group. You know, my best friend that I've got now is the best friend I've had since I was 16, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome.
And every other friend I've kind of made has come through kids I knew from college.
Yeah, right. Oh, cool. Yeah. So you that's such great timing as well in a way for COVID, because you managed to sell up. You had that money in the bank before COVID hit, and then you basically were able to buy the land in a massive panic as well. So you probably had a good negotiating point as well, because I remember.
Yeah, so the land we live on was one big farm, and it was owned by I tried to look up the owners, and it was some kind of corporation that had like umbrella corporation, not a farmer, and they had subdivided the land and sold it off into blocks. And I saw on the piece of paper at the real estate agent how much each person had paid for their block as well. Like he left the room and I just looked at it and I was like, oh, okay. I say, yeah. And so we ended up buying 6 acres for $130K.
Yeah.
That was 6 years ago. And that was pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
We also didn't know anything about buying land. So we didn't know like different places have different soil with different health and different things grow in different places, and you know the importance of having a water source and stuff. Like we knew nothing.
Yeah. Wow.
Like awesome. even where we built our house, we just walked into the middle of the paddock and we were like, how about right here? Like, and just sort of we'll build our place here. And it was the wrong place, you know, but you can fix anything over time. You shouldn't build your place on the lowest lying part of your land, because that's where the water's going to pool. It's common sense but when you've lived in cities and that, you don't even think about these things.
Yeah, right. That's cool. And then you basically spent the other $70K on building materials.
Yeah, bought a ute and a yurt.
Oh yeah, I remember the yurt. You were talking about. I saw the video. Yeah. The yurt video was the first video because we stay in a yurt every summer.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and we do glamping. That's as far as I can go. I'm making my way there slowly. I'm trying, but living in a yurt. So the yurt thing, and I was like, oh yeah, I know a yurt. And then the whole following your journey from there was fun.
So the yurt was the one non-negotiable. So when we were manifesting what it is we wanted, it was always a yurt.
And what do you use the yurt for? Is that the social area? Is that the lounge? Oh, the bedroom.
Myself, my wife, and our 3 kids all sleep in the yurt together.
Do you think as they get older, you'll do separate yurts?
We'll probably build them their own room. Yeah. They've got a room now, which is this room I'm sitting in now could be a bedroom.
Right.
But this is kind of the homeschool room. And we've got another room that's just full of toys, which could be a bedroom as well. But, you know, like the old Māori people grew up. The concept of kids having separate bedrooms is actually quite recent.
Yeah, it is. Must be within like 100 years, even. Kind of.
Somebody tried to tell me it's really not healthy for you to sleep all in one room with your kids. It's not biologically right. And I was like, how does that make sense? Like, it's only very recently that kids have had their own rooms, for sure.
Well, yeah, if you didn't have shelter, right, and you were out in the wild, you'd be huddling up to keep body warmth.
Yeah. But they enjoy it, and they have their space. If they want to go sleep somewhere else, they will. But we really like, especially while they're young.
Yeah, I totally get that. That's cool. Because when we're in the yurt, when we're glamping, we're all in the same thing. Yeah, it is cool.
And they also have their own sort of room in town at my parents' place, so they spend time here and they spend time at my parents' place in town with the reclining chairs and the TV and everything. Like, we don't have that here.
That's awesome. So they get a bit of a hotel vibe from time to time.
Yeah, sometimes they treat the grandparents like that too, which I don't like.
Right. Yeah. I mean, but they want to, right? I guess it's a balancing act. It's hard. Parenting's hard. Cool. And then you basically have been documenting your journey now for like 10 years or more. And it's, I've met you and not seen the past chapters or sagas, right? The seasons. And it's to get here and meet you here is like there's been all these moments and triumphs along the way and failures and setbacks, etc. But what is because now you're building a platform, your content's resonating with people, and you have a lot to give. So what does success look like for you in the next 5 years?
It depends sort of how you define success, eh?
Yeah, success for you.
Yeah, so success for me is, first of all, begins with health. If you're not healthy, doesn't matter how much money you've got in the bank and doesn't matter what else you've got going on, you're broke. And that's something that I've been on a journey with the last couple of years. I've been having quite a lot of sort of health issues, and I've sort of just got to the point where my energies come right. And that sort of and so what's really weird is during that time, I didn't have much energy and I was sharing things on social media, but not really feeling like, I was feeling like I didn't really want to be doing it. As soon as that energy came back, I was like, I'll give TikTok a go. And it just took off. And I was like, it's like the manifestation thing,
Change environment. Yeah. Change an environment again, right? You kind of go from one location, Snapchat almost, to another location, TikTok. It's a new beginning.
Yeah. And it also, I like TikTok because you can just blast as much content onto it as you want and it doesn't really matter. And then you sort of just pick the ones you like and then you put them onto Instagram and then Facebook.
Right. Smart. Oh, that's cool. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, and my sort of strategy with that is, so you start off wide. I make funny videos that lots of people like, and then I sort of make mindset videos, which fewer people will like, and then I'll make quite personal videos, which might make it even smaller. So it's like a funnel coming down into what I really want to be sharing with people, but I'm sort of creating the audience like that. I want a small audience, but you've got to sort of set a wide net first.
Right. Yeah.
In order to get them. Yeah. But yeah, success for the next 5 years is we keep building this place here, or we move out to family land, Māori land, and we start building out there and building a community out there, which is already starting. And that was my grandfather's wish for us. He had this vision of everyone having their own teepees, each family, and living on the land together and working on the land together and sort of living sustainably. And this was back in the 80s. He came up with this, and he died in the 80s. He died the year before I was born.
Right.
So, and I'm 40 now. And sort of this vision that he had is starting to come to fruition now, which is wild.
Right. Yeah.
But we live close enough to there that we can go and help anyway. The next 5 years would also be growing our business. So we have an online store, Kaingaroa Plant Lady.com. We live in, that's where we live, is Kaingaroa.
Right.
And that's sort of, we make cacao, and we make sort of different herbal balms, and there's a bunch of different things that we make from our land.
Amazing. And
it sort of ties in with the social media as well in the funnel. So it funnels down to like income as well.
Yeah.
For me personally, I'm really passionate about helping people who have had anxiety issues like I had.
Right.
And I've been a meditation and breathwork teacher in our local community for a couple of years now. But as I said about the health issues, it's been very inconsistent with my energy. I'm feeling like now that my energy is getting right, I've started putting out messages into the community saying I want to start a men's group, and I want to start doing workshops. I want to start collaborating with people. I just want to get going because I feel like the last couple of years I've been wasting time, and I know it was because of my health. But at the same time, when you're not making progress and you're someone who's really focused on your own growth, it's painful to feel like you're stuck. You know what I mean, eh?
Totally. Yeah, no, I have had, I can relate. I can relate for sure.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Like, I don't even care if I'm going backwards. I just want to be moving in a direction. I don't want to be stuck.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
The status quo, shackled. Well, it's that feeling of being shackled, right?
Yeah.
Because then you're actually just in a cycle of a radius that you can get out to.
Yeah, and I think that it's important for mental health, especially to feel like you're living a life with purpose.
Yeah, for sure.
And in order to do that, you need to be able to take the actions and to feel good.
The reward system.
Yeah, but I also think that the things that we go through in life, especially if you want to be helping other people, you actually have to go through things because then you can relate and you can say, I went through that and this is the steps that I sort of took, and, you know, you can sort of take it too. Yeah,
for sure. Look, this has been really awesome. I think we need to do a part 2.
Yeah.
And I'd love to. I'm going to love continuing to follow your work and what you do and how you progress it, because I think it's really awesome and I think it's going to help a lot of people. And what can someone like me that's interested but not highly engaged, like, what can we do? What could, you know, to make the steps of designing those out, like, you know, researching and designing the outcomes of getting to a point. I told you what my dream was in terms of my living situation around having a place rurally here and then being able to have a place in Portugal that was also rural. So like, how do you take the first step? Like, how do you start looking at it in your...
I think it's really important to really figure out who you are and what it is that you want, and start building momentum by working on yourself first. Like, if you have got habits that are going to hold you back, or patterns of thought and behavior that are going to hold you back from doing things, work on those first. Because if you have all these blocks to making progress, it doesn't matter how well good intentions you are or how much you visualize it and all that, you're going to get in your own way.
Right.
And a big part of that is fear with people, fear of the unknown. Because there's no way around it. You're going to have to take a leap of faith or take a risk at some point.
Yeah.
There's no sort of comfortable path forward.
Yeah.
Because it's not about what you achieve at the end of the day. It's about who you become through this process.
Yeah.
You know, if I lost everything here that we've built, I haven't lost who I've become through the process. And I'll keep going through the process.
Yeah. That makes me actually reflect on, we were just a part of what's called Creative HQ's accelerator program for fintech companies. We were a part of the fintech cohort, and there's 14 of us all in the cohort together. And we've been on this journey for 4 months together. And we just had last week, I posted it on social, the presentation we all gave. And I was one of 14 presentations. But my reflection was on the end event that happened. And that was a kind of, to me, what that was like a lot of courage from incumbents that are actually going out and celebrating innovation and actually saying, hey, go and try and go and innovate. And to the audience, you know, some of the politicians even said this, and I thought their comments were wise, were like, you know, it isn't, you know, don't think of it as failure. You know, there's this whole concept around a book I always talk about, which is Thinking in Bets, and it's about disassociating outcomes from decisions. And it's also about disassociating outcomes from who you've become. So I made some decision with some information, and the outcome was this. But that doesn't mean I'm the manifestation of this situation, is what you're saying. Yeah. And I think that event made me reflect on that environment of giving people that freedom to challenge themselves creates abundance.
I think as well with social media, we get such a view into other people's lives. And so when you're thinking about what it is that you want to create, it's so easy to go, I want that, what that person's got, or I want this much money, or I want, you know, because you're thinking about really what's going to bring you stability, what's going to bring you a feeling of safe, I guess. And for a lot of people who have never had money, the idea of having money is that safety net.
Yeah.
But I would say the money's great, but really think about what it is that's right for you. Because if you end up 20 years down the road in a job that you hate, but you're making money and you've got the nice house and you've got the car and everyone's looking at you like you're Flash, but you're miserable, that's not it.
Yeah.
And that might be the life that somebody really wants. But that might not be yours.
Yep.
So it's about actually figuring out who you are. And so many people don't know who they are. Because
you can go a lifetime. I would say it's how many, what sort of percentage, speculating, what sort of percentage would you put on of people that actually go through, live a life and never really truly have the opportunity to learn who they really are?
Oh, it's got to be up in the 90s. The high 90s of people who never actually know who they are, I'm sure. Because most people are just going day to day, day to day, day to day.
Well, I think there's a lot of shame in that, no? Like, people feel shame. Like, the idea of going out and being vulnerable enough to say, I don't really know who I am.
Yeah.
At this moment. I might have actually a month ago, right? As well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's really kind of.
I constantly feel like I'm at square one with it, because especially if you're someone who's focused on growth as well, sometimes you kind of lose track of where you are, and then you sort of go like, who am I now in this moment? Because like at one point, my identity was like the guy that was funny at the pub, and like I used to just have groups of people around me, and we'd get drunk, and that was like my sort of shtick, and I was all about my sense of humor.
Yeah.
And now I like my sense of humor as a tool that I've honed over time, but I'm not like a funny person, you know? Like if you come and actually sit with me, I'm quite quiet and I'm quite like comfortable just being with somebody and drinking a cup of tea and hanging out with my kids. And, you know, quite often people expect me to be sort of like this funny guy that I used to be, and it's not. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. So you're constantly shifting. Just shift in a direction you want to, hopefully.
Hopefully. Someone commented on a TikTok video of mine the other day and they said, don't go changing, bro. And I was like, mate, I hope we're all changing. Like, that's the point of what we're doing here.
Yeah. I think it's like, don't change. And actually, there's a book I love called The Art of War. No, The War of Art. The War of Art. It's not Sun Tzu, it's The War of Art. And it's about this thing called resistance, which is stopping you from living your purpose, basically. And it's the thing that stops, you know, people from writing the book that they should have, starting the business they should have. And it's all about how distractions and this thing called resistance, which manifests itself in people close to you that actually are also blockers, because you changing would kind of upset the reality, right? The kind of paradigm.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I think that, you know, that what you were saying there is kind of like, don't go changing is not don't change and learn and evolve and reinvent yourself. It's don't lose your purpose, or don't forget your purpose.
I think sometimes when people say it, it's don't lose this version of you that I've created in my head. Please don't upset it.
Oh,
don't upset who I think you are.
The hero's dilemma, right? Never meet your heroes, because then you'll have your idea of them shattered.
Oh, I heard the story about Robert Pattinson.
Okay. Yeah.
He had a stalker, and what he did is he took her out to a cafe for lunch and just sat and talked to her and bored the tears out of her by showing her who he really was. And she just got over it. She was, because you have this idea of who this person is. The
mystical, humans always get tricked by those, right? Those mystical objects of, oh, what's this?
Yeah.
Let's get, and then you find out.
Well, there's as many different versions of you as there are people who are aware of you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. The whole, you're actually what everyone else's individual perception. You're like 600 people, because 600 people have a version of you that's ingrained in their head.
Yeah.
And you're playing to that, right? You're almost, in many cases, you are that person to that person. So therefore your behavior reflects that.
Yeah. And sometimes you lose track of who you are.
Totally. Yeah. Amazing. Awesome. Well, this has been so fun. We need to do part 2 and maybe even a part 3. I think we could chat about stuff endlessly.
Bro, I feel like me and you can talk for ages just about just keep going and going.
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll do it again, and obviously I'd love to stay in touch personally. It's been great getting to know you.
Cool.